Have you been told you need to stop doing what you love, whether it's exercise, running, or a sport? Well, here at Dynamic, we don't like that answer. In this podcast, we'll talk to leaders in the health and wellness space from Southwest Florida to get the solutions you need to get you back to doing what you love. Welcome to the Dynamic Naples Podcast. What's going on, Southwest Florida? Today I want to talk about electrolytes, high blood pressure, and osteoporosis. And I want to talk about these three specific things because they all kind of go together. So first of all, what is an electrolyte? So electrolyte's a mineral, and it carries a charge when dissolved in a fluid such as water or such as blood. So when you eat food, they're broken down into either neutral atoms or molecules, and some are broken down to atoms that carry a charge. If they have a charge, they're called an ion, which is also known as electrolyte. So that includes sodium, potassium, calcium, bicarbonate, magnesium, chloride, and phosphate. So the human body is a bioelectric machine, and it's actually capable of producing enough energy to power a 100-watt light bulb. So you need these electric currents in the body. They're used for all different types of functions in the body, such as conducting nerve impulses, controlling metabolism, and regulating tissue and organ function. Maintaining the balance of electrolytes to water is very important for the body, and the kidneys do a great job at that normally, under normal circumstances. So what happens is if the electrolyte concentration in a cell is too high, fluid will move into the cell via a process called osmosis. So if you've heard of the phrase, water chases salt, this is what is meant by that. If the electrolyte concentration is too low, then the fluid moves out of the cell. So that's why your pee becomes very yellow when you're dehydrated and clear when you're sort of overhydrated. So problems occur when this whole system is dysfunctional. So let's look at salt. So if the kidneys aren't doing a good job and you have too much salt, this can cause thirst, confusion, irritability, fatigue, spasms, and muscle twitching. And then the converse of that, hyponatremia, which is too little salt, that can cause dizziness, headache, spasms, and even seizures or coma. So what causes the kidneys to not do their job correctly? Well, one thing is if you just don't allow them to. So, this happens a lot to marathon runners. They are not stopping to pee, so the kidneys are not allowed to dump sort of the right concentrations of fluids. And you're running, you're also dropping out salt, and you're taking in water. So at this point, you've got too much water and too little salt, and now you're in hyponatremia. All right, and this actually can be deadly. So if you've seen marathon runners collapse, that's from that. That's from hyponatremia. Another thing that can inhibit kidney function is alcohol. So there is an important hormone, anti-diuretic hormone. Just think of it as water-conserving hormone. It comes from your brain. The pituitary gland secretes it when it senses that your kidneys need to hold on to more water. It sends the signal of ADH to the kidneys, and then that's what happens. The kidneys hold on to water. The thing is, alcohol crosses the blood-brain barrier, and inhibits the function of the pituitary gland, and it stops the release of this hormone. So the whole function of the kidney is totally altered at this point, and it starts like wrongly dumping too much water. So that's why if you've been having a few drinks, your pee becomes clearer and clearer. That's because it's not doing its job holding onto water. Then the first thing in the morning, you get up to pee, and now alcohol is no longer having its effect on the pituitary gland. And the kidneys are like, oh my God, I got way too much salt and way too little water, and it starts dumping all the salts, or all the electrolytes, really. All right, and it kind of does this like roller coaster thing where it kind of goes back and forth. You're taking water and you're dumping salt. But basically what happens is, like, if you picture a dimmer switch, the whole dial is down really low because your water's low and your salts are now low. And that's why you kind of feel crappy with a hangover, right? You just don't have enough energy because you need electrolytes and water to conduct those nerve impulses to use your body. And I wanted to bring this up because there's sort of like a salt phobia. We've been told for decades to avoid too much salt because of blood pressure reasons. Well, there's a couple things to that. First off, the American diet, if you go back several decades ago, was much saltier with lots of preservatives and canned food. Now that we've moved more away from that into more whole foods, we tend to be a little more salt deficient now. It's almost like to put the salt back in. But then there's the question of high blood pressure. So it is true that water chases salt. So having a lot of salt or being in hypernatremia, you're going to increase your total blood volume. Right? Your blood's mostly water. But here's the thing: some people do fine with salt, and there are some people that seem to be like sensitive hypertensives. So people are sensitive to salt. So whenever I hear something like that, some people don't do well and some seem to be fine, that usually means there's something more to the picture. In this case, it's insulin. No surprise, insulin seems to be an issue for just about everything. So it's known that increased insulin levels can raise aldosterone. All right, aldosterone leads to an increased salt and water retention, and that's how the blood pressure is elevated. So if you're insulin resistant, which is usually either from diet high in carbs or diet high in seed oils, or usually both, that's going to lead to insulin resistance, which is going to lead to a higher level of aldosterone, which increases the salt and water retention, and that's what elevates the blood pressure. So salt has sort of wrongly been vilified, where insulin resistance is really the bigger problem. Another way that sugars can increase the blood pressure is through its effect on the blood vessels. So insulin has two important effects on the vasculature. So under normal circumstances, insulin suppresses cytokines, adhesion molecules, and reactive oxygen species. That's all the damaging stuff for the blood vessels. It also will stimulate nitric oxide release, which is a known powerful vasodilator, which widens the blood vessel. So if you're in an insulin-resistant state, this hormone can no longer exhibit its effect. So now you have a tube that's thickened from the inside and narrowed because of the lack of nitric oxide. So it's kind of a double whammy. So here we are again with insulin resistance having an underlying issue, causing an underlying issue. And salt's being blamed. How does this relate to osteoporosis? Our bones are storage reservoirs for mineral salts such as calcium, phosphorus, and salt. That's what makes them hard, in fact. So when our fluids are deficient in one of these minerals, the bone will release what is needed in the body. So it's basically this constant dynamic process of minerals coming and going. So you've got osteoblasts, which form bones, and osteoclasts, which break them down. So if your body needs to restore electrolyte balance and doesn't have enough salt in the diet, it'll start breaking down some of the bone matrix and taking the salt from there. There's been dozens of studies that have confirmed that there is a significant association between hyponatremia, remember that's not enough salt, and osteoporosis. And many of these studies have concluded that the likely mechanism is due to bone salts being released to restore the balance. And it's kind of funny because I think most people generally have a good, idea around electrolytes. They think electrolytes are good, right? But the main electrolyte is salt, but we've been told that salt is kind of a bad thing. So which one is it, right? So it's all about the balance. Bottom line, this is not nutritional advice, but, if you do have high blood pressure, you probably want to check out your insulin levels. Once you get that under control, usually the recommendation at that point is to salt your food to taste. Obviously, consult with either a dietitian or your physician first before making any drastic dietary changes. But just know that salt is not the enemy. Okay, Southwest Florida, that's all I have for you today. I'll be talking to you soon. Do you have unexplained pain, or do you wonder just how healthy you are? When was the last time you had your blood tested? Blood chemistry analysis is a great way to stay ahead of any health conditions, and now you can have control of your health with Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is an incredible company that sends blood tests to your home. You can choose from over 30 different tests, whether that's liver function, testosterone, micronutrient, cholesterol, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation. It's sent to you with free shipping, and you get your results in 2 to 5 days, no physician referral needed. Use the code DPT30 for 30% off. Go to letsgetchecked.com and use the code DPT30. Did you know that you can get started with physical therapy without a physician's referral? Physical therapists don't just solve pain, we get down to the root cause and keep it from coming back. We also discuss all things health, such as nutrition and lifestyle changes. If you feel that you could use some help, let's get on a free consult call. Go to www.dynamicnaples.com and sign up for a free call. Also, if you like this podcast, please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us spread the message. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.